You have probably seen those videos where someone opens an AI tool, types one sentence, and suddenly a full application appears on screen. That's not what this video is about. In this video, I'm going to show you how to actually use Claude Code to build a real full stack application with proper workflow, real mistakes that I made or the Claude Code AI agent made, and the moments where you have to step in and fix what the AI got wrong. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to use Claude Code to build a real full stack application with a workflow you can apply to any project, not just this one. And the workflow matter more than the application. Because once you know how to work with an AI agent properly, how to plan, how to delegate, how to review, and how to take control, you can build almost anything in a fraction of the time. And now, here what we are going to build. I'm going to build a personal job tracker with Spring Boot backend and React frontend, simple and focused, and it has also AI powered features. While creating a new job entry, I can just paste the job posting URL. The app reads the page and fills all the details automatically. And even with one click, you can generate a cover letter draft based on the job title and description. Clean, minimal, useful, and built almost entirely by an AI agent with you in the driver's seat. Alright, let's get started. The first step is to install Claude Code on our computer. Simply head over to claude.com/product/Claude-Code. On this page, you will find command that you need to copy and paste into your terminal to install Claude Code. Here are also other options available like the desktop app, VS Code extension or JetBrains extension and other options. But I personally prefer using the terminal. So let's copy that command. Now open the terminal and paste it here. Now you can go ahead and press enter. That's all it takes to get Claude Code installed in your computer. I have already installed it, so let's move on. After successfully installing Claude Code, you can run it using the Claude command. I will run this inside my project. Let's navigate to my project directory and then go into my project folder. Now inside this project directory, just type Claude and press enter. And here the Claude UI opens up. It's showing the model I am using, the effort level, my current subscription plan, and some other project related details. And right here, this is where we'll type our instructions. I'm not going to use this terminal as AI will write our code, so we need to review it. And the best tool for that is our IDE. That's what, as a developer, we are most comfortable with. Our application will have two parts, front-end and back-end. For the front-end, we'll use React, and for the back-end, we'll use Spring Boot. I'll use Visual Studio Code for the React and IntelliJ IDEA for Spring Boot application. Let's close this terminal now and open Visual Studio Code. In Visual Studio Code, I already have my project folder opened. Now I'll rearrange the window positions. I don't need this chat window, but I do need the terminal. Let me drag the terminal panel on the left side. Okay, that's what I want. Now in this terminal, I can just type Claude and it opens the Claude panel right inside the VS Code. Before we start writing any code, we need to do some planning. In this AI agent era, we delegate our coding tasks to the AI agent. So we spend less time on writing code. But now we don't need to spend significant amount of time on planning and reviewing the code that the AI has written. That's where our real value is now. For the moment, let's exit Claude Code. Let's start by identifying the scope of our project. Inside our project folder, I'll create a new file and name it project-scope.md. And inside this file, I am going to write the plan about my project. This project is about an application tracker for my personal use. I named the project Track My Career. For the project scope, we need to identify a few key things: the problem we are solving, the solution that we are building, the user who will use it, the feature it will have, and the data it will manage. Out of all of these, I want to highlight that this data is most critical part of any software. If our front end has a problem, you can replace it entirely. If your backend breaks, you can also swap it out. You can even change your entire tech stack. But you cannot fix if the data is not arranged properly or corrupted. The software is essentially just an interface for viewing or operating on data. So, whenever you are defining your data model, be very careful and deliberate. Now, let's start writing about the problem that I want to solve. It does not need to be perfect. I am just writing down my rough thoughts here. Here, what I have come up with the problem statement. I am actively job hunting. I search LinkedIn, Indeed, and other job portals. The issue is that I often lose track of the jobs I have applied to, what the job description said, what URL it was listed at, what cover letter I submitted. And sometimes I plan to apply for a job later, but by the time I remember, the deadline has already passed. For the solution, it's simple. Develop a personal job tracking portal where I can store job information, company details, application status, apply date, deadline, and everything else I need for my records. For the user, this is essentially for my personal use, but more specifically, it's for anyone who wants a simple but effective way to track both applied job and jobs they plan to apply to. Now, let's identify the features. Here is what I get by brainstorming: a dashboard with a summary card showing total applied, interviews, offers, rejected, and deadline coming soon. The dashboard should also show jobs with upcoming deadlines so we never miss an application. A separate all jobs page that lists all the entries with 10 per page by default. The all job page needs to have search functionality. Again, this is just rough thought. We can always define it later. Now, let's think about the data. I have identified a few tables that we'll need. The first is the jobs table. It will contain ID as the primary key. Then we will also need job title, description, application status, and many other details. Then we need a company table. In our company table, it will have ID, the company name, and a short description. One company can have multiple jobs, so I will link them using company ID foreign key in the jobs table. And finally, I want to take notes on individual jobs. So I have a separate notes table with an ID, notes, and save date. Also reference it from the job table using the note ID. Actually, our job entry can have multiple notes. So here we need to put the reference to the job ID in the notes table. So let's remove it and update the notes. Okay, great. Here I want to keep this simple. No overly complex data structures. This is just for my personal use. So I don't need to overly complicate the things. Now that we have our rough project scope ready, I may miss some key things, so I'll use Claude to help me. Let's open Claude Code. And I need to tell to check the project scope and give me the suggestion. Review my project scope. Here we can reference our project scope file using @ and then the file name. So review my project scope and identify any gaps I may have missed. Ask me clarifying questions if needed. Press enter. Here, Claude is asking some question about the project. Claude may ask you a different question, but don't panic. This is the nature of LLM. It's unpredictable. So go through that question and provide your answers. And if something missed by Claude, we can always give instruction to the Claude to include that missing pieces. Okay, let's go to the questions. Let's go through the first question. Which apply status values do we want? I need all of those. Let's move to next one. How do you want to handle multiple interview rounds? I will go with the separate interview table. That's the cleaner approach. Next up, Which additional fields do you want on the jobs table? I want a cover letter field as a plain text, along with job source and salary range. Let's go next. What should coming soon mean on the dashboard deadline card? I want this to show only the urgent ones within the 3 days. I'm happy with all the answers. Let's submit. Claude comes back with a new set of questions. Let's review them. The all job search, what field should it search across? I want to keep it simple. It's title and company name only. Next, default sort order on the all jobs page. It's by deadline, soonest first. Next one, should offer and rejected be separate status or combined? It needs to be separate. And submit the answer. Claude has updated the project scope file and is asking permission to write it. Before accepting this, let's review what it has suggested. The problem statement and solution untouched, that's fine. For the user, it's updated it to single user, personal use, no authentication or login required. That works fine. For feature, there are quite few modifications. A separate all jobs page listing all entries, 10 per page by default, sorted by deadline. And the search on the all job page searches across job titles and company names only. Let's look at the data model. Here is the jobs table. It has applied status as the enum type with the option wishlist, applied, interview, offer and rejected. It also added the column job source and salary range. For the company table, no change. It has added the new interview table. It has ID, interview date, round name, notes, and the job ID to link back to the job. That's fine. And the notes table. I'm happy with that. Let's accept it. It's time to decide the tech stack. Give the Claude this command. Now, let's decide our tech stack. For the backend, I'll use Spring Boot 3 with Java 21 and Spring Data JPA as our ORM. For the frontend, I'll use React with Tailwind CSS version 4 for styling. Shade C1 UI for UI component. Press enter. Again, Claude is asking follow-up question. For the build tool, I'll go with Maven. For the database, it's PostgreSQL. For the frontend language, I'll go with TypeScript. And for how the frontend calls the backend, I'll use native fetch. Let's submit. Now Claude has decided what it needs to do, but we need to store that information in the claude.md file. For creating that, I'll use the command /init. With init, Claude Code will automatically generate a claude.md file based on the current project. It has created our claude.md and asking permission to save it. Let's review what it has generated. I don't need this top level description. Let's switch to preview mode for better readability. We have a project description. The tech stack, backend is Spring Boot with Java 21. Frontend uses Tailwind CSS and shared scene URI. It also provided a project structure, backend and frontend directories along with some other commands. But for the frontend commands, it generated npm commands, but I don't want to use that. I'll use ban. We'll fix that in a moment. Let's check the rest. It defined the architecture and provided a data model. But this data model feels like a summary. I want more details. For now, let's accept these changes first and give Claude an update command. I do not want to use node. I'll use ban. And also for the data model, provide more detailed information like data types, primary keys and foreign keys, etc. Claude has made changes and it's asking my permission to update. Let's review. The frontend commands is updated to ban. The data model is not updated yet. Let's accept these changes and let Claude continue. Claude finished its work. Let's preview. The data model is now updated with the full table definition. I liked it. Let's accept. Now let's open the sidebar. Now we have our claude.md file in place. Now let's initialize a Git repository and commit our changes. Open a new terminal. Initialize it as Git repository. Stage all the files. And commit with the commit message. Initial commit. Now our project scope is ready. We have our tech stack defined and our Claude.md in place. Now it's time to scaffold the actual project. For creating a project, I can just command a Claude to create the project for me. But because of the unpredictable nature of LLM, it has a tendency to include unnecessary dependency and versions. So I prefer to create project by myself. Here I have opened IntelliJ IDEA. This IDE comes with built-in feature for creating new Spring Boot project. Click on this new project. In this new project page, make sure Spring Boot is selected. Next, choose the location where the project will be stored. Now give the project name. Here it shows the full path where the project will be stored. Next, choose the language as Java. Select the type Maven. Provide the group name. Everything else is fine. For JDK, I'm going to select Oracle OpenJDK 21, Java version 21. And let's try to move the window a little bit up. Here, select packaging as jar and click next. The next button is not visible here. That is because it's outside the recording area. Here in this new window, set the Spring Boot version to 3.5.14 and add the dependency. The first one is Spring Web. Next, I need Spring Data JPA. I am going to use PostgreSQL database, so we need PostgreSQL driver as well. So that's all the dependency that we need. Now click Finish. Again, this button is outside the recording area. That's why it's not visible here. Our project is now created and my IDE is downloading the necessary dependencies. Let's wait for some time. The dependency download is complete and we're ready to write our Spring Boot backend code. Let me quickly check our pom.xml file. Here we are using Spring Boot version 3.5.14, Java 21. As dependency, we have added Spring Data JPA, Spring Web Starter, and the PostgreSQL driver. And that's all we need for now. Now let's open the terminal inside IntelliJ IDEA. Let me move the terminal to the left side. I am currently inside the server directory. That's my Spring Boot project. But my Claude.md file lives one level up inside my Track My Career parent directory. Claude Code needs to access that file. So let me navigate one directory up. Here you can see we have this Claude.md file. The first thing I want to do is to configure the database connection. For that, we need to update the application.properties file. Let me rename this file to application.yml. I prefer YML because it's more readable. And remove this line. I don't need this. Now, instead of writing the database configuration manually, let's ask Claude to do it. Let me start Claude Code using the Claude command. Let me make the font size a little bit bigger. Great. Now let's give the Claude instruction. Update my application.yml file. Here provided the path of the file. Update application.yml file to connect with PostgreSQL database. The database is running on my local host inside Docker. You can access it using localhost. The username is Postgres and password is 1234. Let's hit enter. Here, Claude is proposed a configuration. I'll accept this. Now, in my PostgreSQL, I have the database in a different name, actually in different spelling. Let's check that quickly. For connecting with the PostgreSQL database, I'm going to use this built-in tool of IntelliJ IDEA. Now click on this plus icon, data source, search for PostgreSQL. Here in this window, I need to configure the database, enter the username Postgres, the password, and click test connection. The connection is successful, so let's click OK. Here, the database is available in the database panel. Now let me expand this database list. Here is the database, Track My Career. And let's make the public schema visible. Currently, this database is empty. Let's copy this and update the database name. Username, password, everything looks fine. Now, one thing I forgot, I want to use Flyway as our database migration tool. So let me save the current file and give Claude the next instruction. I want to use Flyway DB as my migration tool. Update pom.xml file of my server to include Flyway as dependency. Also, update Claude.md file. Let's see what it suggests. It's adding Flyway code and Flyway database PostgreSQL. Good, accept the change. Let me now verify it is in the code. In the application.yml, detail auto is now set to validate. This makes sense because we are using Flyway. And in pom.xml, we have Flyway core and Flyway database PostgreSQL. Both are needed for PostgreSQL migration support. Now, let's ask Claude to create simple REST controller. Create a REST controller. That controller will just return a message, hello. Asking my permission to create this. Let's accept this. Let's review what Claude has done. It has created a controller package and inside it a hello controller class and a request mapping API. Here get mapping hello and this method returning hello. Let's run the project. The project is running. Let's open the Postman. In the Postman, it will be get request and the URL is localhost 8080 and /API/hello. Send the request and we are getting back hello. Everything is working and the application started successfully. This also confirms that we have connected to the database and Flyway is running without errors. Now let's commit everything up at this point. Ask Claude to handle the git commit with the appropriate message. It has come out with a descriptive commit message. Let's approve it and we are done. Our initial backend setup is committed. This time, I need to create database migration tables. Generate necessary migration and models in my server. With that, Claude will check the data models defined in my claude.md file and generate necessary migrations and models. Give it permission to create the migration and model directories. So, Claude has generated all the necessary migrations and models. Now, let's review them in the code. Inside my project directory, we have the model package and it has created applied status, company, interview, job, and note models. Let's open the company model. So it's referencing the company table. It has fields for ID, company name, and other fields including the setter and getters. Then we have the interview model class. It has ID, round name, interview date, note, the job relation, and the other getters and setters. Very good. Now let's check the job. ID as primary key, then job title, job description, cover letter, and some other fields. So far, everything looks good. Then we have note model. Okay. So everything seems okay. Let's close all the tabs. Now let's check the migrations. The migrations are created inside resources, DB, migration directory. The first one is the company table. It contains the SQL script to create the company table in their database. The next one is the jobs table. It sets ID as primary key, job title, job description, and all other fields. Everything is as expected. Then we have interviews table and then notes migration. This is again okay. Now at this point, we have our migration files and our models ready. Now let's start the project and see if Flyway runs the migration and creates the necessary tables in our database. Our project has started. Let's check the database now. Our public schema now has 5 tables: company, Flyway schema history. They store the schema about the migration. We have interviews table, jobs and nodes table. So migration ran successfully and our database is ready. Now it's time to start building the API. At first, I'll create the API for job entry. Here is my terminal. Let's start Claude Code by using the command Claude. Now let's give this command to the Claude. Implement complete CRUD API for job entry in my Spring Boot server. Use Hibernate validator for input validation. Here we are currently in edit mode. I am going to switch it to plan mode by pressing Shift and Tab. Plan mode is best when you want Claude Code to think and propose a plan before it acts. Let's press enter. Claude has come up with a plan for the Job CRUD API. Let's review it. It gives us some context first, then identifies the files it needs to create, and then outlines the necessary API endpoints. The first endpoint is a GET request API/jobs. This returns a paginated list sorted by deadline in ascending order. It also supports page, size, and search as request parameter of the method. And for searching, it matches against the job title or company name. The next endpoint retrieves a single job by its ID. Then we have a post request to API/jobs for creating a new job entry. Then we have a put request for updating and a delete request for deleting a job. Claude has also come up with DTO design. We have job request, the DTO for the request body, and job response. This is what our REST API will return as the response. I will check these details once the code is generated. Let's move to the next section. It has also identified company repository and other classes it needs to create. Let's move past it. We'll review the final code in detail shortly. At this point, I am happy with what it has come up with. So let's accept the plan and let it start generating the code. It has completed its task and it took about 5 minutes and 7 seconds. If I had to done it manually, it would have taken considerably larger. During this time, I was able to do something else that is more meaningful for me. Let's check what it has come up with. I am switching to IntelliJ IDEA. This is my ID for Spring Boot development. I will open the commit panel. This automatically lists all the changes so we can review them easily. The first changes is in pom.xml. It has added new dependency, Spring Boot Starter Validation. This is for Spring Input Validation support. Now let's look at the new files. The first one is company repository. It's an interface that extends JPA repository. Next we have job controller. It's annotated with REST controller and request mapping mapped to API/jobs. We have get mapping for listing all jobs. Then get job for retrieving a job by its ID. Then we have this post mapping. This one is for creating a new job and other methods for update and delete. Next is job repository. It extends JPA repository and at this point it has only one custom query method, search job, with a custom JPQL query for handling the search operation. Then we have job request, the DTO for the request body. It contains the necessary fields with the validation rules. And job response, the response object that our REST API returns. Now job service, this is where the business logic lives. It has injected job repository and company repository. The first method handles listing jobs. It calls search job of job repository to perform the search operation. Then we have get job for retrieving the single job entry. The return statement, it first retrieves the job by ID and then call toResponse method. Let's check this toResponse method. This method actually builds the proper job response body. Then we have this create job. It first retrieves the company by company ID, then initializes a new job object and calls apply request, passing the new job object, the request body, and the company. Let's check what's inside apply request. It's basically populates the job object with the values from the request. Back to create job method. Here, it saves the job to the database and return the response. Then update job. It first retrieves the job by ID, calls apply request to populate the job object with the updated values, and finally saves the updated job. Then we have delete job method and find by ID. This uses job repository.find by ID to retrieve a single job entry from the database. And finally, find company to retrieve the company by its ID. And that's all about job service. Now, I want to test this API. For that, I'll use Postman. So let's tell Claude to create the Postman collection so that we can use it easily. Create Postman collection for the job API. It's asking my permission to create the file. Let's proceed. The Postman collection is created. Now let's start the project. Back to the Postman. Here I will import the collection to the Postman. Let's open the sidebar. Then here we have these three dots. Choose import. Let's navigate to the project folder and select the Postman collection file. The collection is imported. Now let's try to get the list of jobs. Send the request. This time we are getting the response. So it's working fine. Now let's try to add a new job. Let's check the request body. In the request body, it contains the job title, set the company ID as 1, added applied status, job description, and other necessary inputs as JSON object. Let's send the request. But we are getting 400 bad request. Let's take help from Claude. When I try to create job, it shows 400 bad request. Claude is asking me to share the exact body. Let me go back to the Postman, copy the curl request and paste it and press enter. Claude is telling us we need to create a company first. It has provided this curl request to create company. I believe we don't have anything to create company yet, and this URL is actually does not exist. Let me check the code. We only have a job controller, but there is nothing for creating a new company. And that's funny. Claude Code has generated me a code, but this AI does not have any idea what it has generated. And though it has access to my full code, but it did not check the code base. This is really a good example where AI makes a mistake and we, the developer, needs to review what it has written. Let's tell Claude to fix it. There is no controller to handle the URL you mentioned. Please create a controller for the company. Claude is doing its job. Let's accept the change. Now let's review the code. Here is company controller. It has all necessary endpoints. Good. Now let's tell Claude to update the Postman import to include the company API. It has updated the collection. Let me go back to Postman. Delete the old collection. Now I need to re-import the file. So at this point, we have this company section. Let's get the list of companies. 404. I forgot to restart the server. This is the problem I face when developing Java project. We need to restart the server after do each modifications. That sometimes becomes annoying. Closing all other tabs. Let's try to get the list of companies. At this time, it returns an empty array. That is because the company table does not contain any record. Let's try to add a new company and send a request. The company is created with ID 1. Let's try to get this company by ID. It works too. Now let's create a job. Here is the create job request. It's already include the company ID. Let's send the request. Great, it's working. Now I want to add proper exception handler here. Previously, it provided a response 400 bad request because the company data was not available in the database. But I want it should give human readable error message. Let's ask Claude to fix that. Cool, it's working now. But previously, while I was trying to create a job, if the company does not exist, then it responds with 400 bad request. I want, instead of this, it should return a human readable message with proper reason. Let me switch to plan mode and ask Claude to handle this. And let's see what solution the Claude came with. Okay, so Claude has come up with a plan. Let's see what it's proposing. Files to create. It will create a global exception handler. For the files to modify, it will update job service. Wherever a record is not found, it will now throw new response status exception with HTTP status not found with appropriate message. Good. And in global exception handler inside REST controller advice, it will now dynamically extract both the status code and the reason from the exception. This looks right. Alright, let's accept the edits and see what it produces. So it applied all the changes. Let's check the updated files in the IntelliJ IDEA. First, it has created the exception package, and inside it, the global exception handler class, the 3 handler methods are defined. Looks good. Now let's check the service package. In job service, we have find company method. If the company is not found, it now throws response status exception with HTTP status not found and the message company not found. That's the fix I asked for. I'm not going to walk through every single line right now, but in a real scenario, I do check each and every statement the AI has written. Remember, AI is just like an overconfident intern. It will tell you something wrong with complete confidence. So never trust it blindly. Review every line, and if something is off, either prompt it to fix it or just write the code by yourself. Alright, let's start the project and test it in the Postman. So first, let's try to fetch job, and we are back with expected response. Good. Now let's try to create a job. This time I will pass the company ID that does not exist in the database. Let's use ID 2. Let's send a request, and there it is. It's now returning the proper human readable message, company not found. That's exactly what we wanted. There are a few other test scripts here that cover additional scenarios, and normally I check each one manually to make sure everything works. I often also write unit test or integration test to verify the result properly. But for now, I'll wrap it up here. The full source code will be pushed to GitHub. I highly recommend you to pull down, run it by yourself, and try to spot any remaining issues. Try prompting the AI to fix them or fix them by hand, and then drop a comment sharing how it went. Now let's tell Claude to update our Claude.md. And it has updated the file with 2 additions: the exception handling section and the error handling section. I am happy with the current changes. Now let's tell Claude to commit with appropriate commit message. The commit message it has generated. Let's approve that. Now we want to move to the front-end part. But before writing any code, I want to start by designing the user interface first. For that, I'm going to use Claude Design. Let's open the browser and go to Claude.ai/design. Here, I'll use Claude Design to prototype the UI for the front end. Let's create a new prototype. I'll name it Track My Job and choose the high fidelity option. Then create click. Now here in this input box, I'll describe what I want. I want to prototype a dashboard UI for my project. I am going to give you the project overview. From that, I want to create only a mockup of the dashboard. It should not function other than the visual element. Here is the project overview. For the project overview, let me open claude.md file in VS Code, copy everything and paste it here. It's not rendering visibly in the text box, but the content is actually here. If you hover over the input, you can see it's in the mini preview window. And I also want to add one more thing. I want it to be a minimal modern design. Let's send a request. And here we go. I think this is pretty solid. I like the design. I am very satisfied with the dashboard. Now I'll design other pages. I'll just give the prompts to generate them. Something like design the all jobs page. Showing you design every single page with the similar prompt would get boring. So I am going to fast forward. Here we have all the page generated. This is the dashboard. We saw this earlier. It has the navigation bar and the cards for showing wish list, applied, interviews and other information. It also has a section that lists jobs with upcoming deadlines and other one to show upcoming interviews. Then we have this all jobs page. It has a table that shows the list of job entries, a search bar and a status filter. We can select it to list jobs by status. Next is the job details page. This is also pretty good design. This one is the new job entry form. We have the companies page and this one is the interview page. Now let's bring those designs into our project and I will update the real HTML that is exported from this Claude Design to the GitHub. So you will be able to check that from there. Then click on this share. Then download project as zip and the project is downloaded. Let's copy it into my project folder. Here I am inside my project folder, check my career and here is the zip file that was generated. Let's unzip it. I'll remove the old zip file and rename the folder. Let's call it UI designs and inside this folder, for each page, it has given us separate HTML files. Now let's update our claude.md file with design specification. Over to Claude Code and here give the instruction. I have added UI design for frontend in provide the folder name here. So update claude.md for design. And here it has updated the project structure. It has identified the UI designs are static mockups and it listed the main dashboard page, the job list board. Actually, it has identified everything properly. That looks good. Now let's move to our next phase, implementing the front end. Now let's create the front end. I'm going to use Vite with React and Barn instead of NPM. Let's close all of these to make some room. Good. So the command for creating a React project using Barn is barn create Vite. It is asking for the project name. Let me check the claude.md. What was the front-end project name? It's this one, frontend. So let's use frontend as the project name. Select React as framework and TypeScript as the variant. Then install with Barn. Our project is created and it's running on this URL. Let's copy that, open the browser and paste it. So it has this default React page and now let's start customizing. Back to VS Code. Since this front-end implementation is a separate task, I'll clear the Claude context. I can use clear command for that. It starts a fresh session with an empty context. I don't need previous context here because everything I need is already saved in my claude.md file. Now let's review what's inside our frontend folder. We have the package.json, and the only dependencies added here are React and React DOM. I created this project myself rather than letting the AI to scaffold it because AI has a tendency to add unnecessary dependencies. I scaffolded myself and then gradually install Claude to do what it needs to do. We also have index.html as the entry point. Inside src, here's some boilerplate styling. I don't need any of that. I will start from scratch. So let's delete everything from app.css. Same thing for app.tsx. Remove all the boilerplate content. And instead, I want to just add a simple message. Welcome to check my job. And let's remove the count state and unnecessary import. For index.css, let's clean that. The main.tsx is fine as it is. Let's check the browser. Here we have this message. Welcome to check my job. It's time to design the page. Here is the instruction. Now design my dashboard page in React. It's reading the dashboard mockups and the existing frontend structure. It's asking my permission to install Tailwind CSS version 4. Let's proceed. Next, it's initializing shadescene UI. Let's accept. So it has designed our dashboard. Let's see what it looks like. Wow, it's actually designed exactly the same thing. I liked it. Let's review what it has done. App.css, nothing. App.tsx looks good. Index.css, it has imported Tailwind CSS and the shadescene libraries. Now let's tell it to build the all jobs page. Now create all jobs page. Also do proper navigation styling for the active page link. It's now asking my permission to install React Router. Let's accept and proceed. It has completed the task. Let's check what it looks like in the browser. The layout looks good and everything is working as expected. Let me review what the changes first. In the package.json, it's added React Router dependency. In app.tsx, it added routes for the dashboard and all jobs pages. In index.css, it added custom styles for job table hover state. In the nav component, it updated the navigation links and added logic to highlight the active menu item. And finally, it created the all jobs component. Everything looks good. Let's test the change and commit with a proper message. Now let's create our next feature, our form for adding a new job entry. Next, create the new application form page. The task is complete and it took around 3 minutes 45 seconds. Not bad. Let's check the result. So opening the new application, we have the job title, the company name, the web URL. Here is the status, that field for apply date, and this one for the deadline. It has added some predefined sources. We also have the salary range, a description field, and a cover letter section. So far so good. I'm happy with the result. Now let's review the code changes. First, it updated app.tsx. Here it added the route for creating a new job. In the nav bar, there's some refactoring and it has created this new application component. Here, a full new page for the new application. Now it's time to create our job details page. Our job details page is created. Let's check this. If I click on a job here, it's opening the job details page. We can see the interview stage, and from here, if I click new application, great, it's navigating me to the new job application page. The styling looks good. Now let's check the changes it made. In app.tsx, it added the route path for job details. In the all jobs component, it added React router DOM and linked each job to its detailed page. And finally, it created the job details page itself. Let's commit all of these changes. Our next task is to create the company's page. I'm going to clear the context again. And here is the command. Create company page. The task is complete. Let's check our company's page. So it has created the company page. And also this add company works fine. Good job. Now it's time to create the interview listing page. Back to Claude Code. Let me just give the command. Create interviews page, only the front end. Let's accept. The task is complete. Let's check our interview page. Good. We have the interview listing. And from here, we can navigate to the new interview page. Things are looking good. One thing, I have not created the interview details page yet. I'll put that at a later stage. So far, everything is working. We have our dashboard, the all jobs page with the option to add new job, the company's page, and all other UI pages are in place. Next, it's time to start integrating the front end with the backend. So our goal for this session is populate the job listing page by connecting the server and the client, getting real data flowing from the backend to the front end. Let's begin by seeding the database. Create migration in server to seed the database with dummy data. Let's press enter. It has created this migration script to seed dummy data. Let's check what it came up with. Back in IntelliJ IDEA, the seed file is inside resources, DB, migration. Let's open it. Let's review the data. This one is for seeding the company table. Then insert query for jobs table. It also has seed data for interview and notes. Now let's start the project. Flyway will automatically pick up this script and run it against our database. So the seed data gets inserted without us doing anything manually. Now let's verify this in the database. Let's refresh the tables. Check the companies table. Here we have 11 companies entries. For the job, this contains 21 job, and the interviews table, it's seeded, and notes table also seeded. So far everything looks good. Let's commit these changes. Now what we need next is actually display this job data in the front end. Back to Claude Code. Now update our project to display the data in the front end. It has completed the task. It took me more than 8 minutes. Let's see what it has come up with. First, let's start server. Now let's check this in the front end. Let's view all jobs. At this point, no jobs are showing up. It's not working properly. It's not able to parse the jobs and display them here. Let's check if there are any errors in the console. There it is. The request is blocked by CORS policy. Okay, let's copy this error and tell Claude to solve it. In the browser console, I am getting this error and paste it here. And that is how we handle problems like this. Sometimes we go back and forth with prompting, and sometimes we fix the code by hand to resolve it quickly. So Claude has completed its task. We need to restart the backend server and see if everything looks fine. This time the results are populated correctly. It's showing 10 results out of 21 with pagination. We have 3 pages, and clicking next loads the next 10 results. So it's working fine. Let's review the code. Back to Visual Studio Code. From here, now let's check the updated files. It has made modifications to both the server and frontend. Let's start with server. Under main Java, Claude has created a web config class. This adds configuration CURS mapping. This was causing the issue in the browser. But there is a problem here. I don't want to hardcode the allowed origin URL directly in the file. I want to move it into an environment variable instead. Let's tell Claude to handle that. I don't want to hardcode the allowed origin URL. Move it to the environment variable. Since we are already inside web config class, Claude will automatically identify that this is the file we are referring to. Let's press enter. So it has completed the task. Let's now review the changes it made. Let's open source control and go through everything. First, it has updated the dashboard on the front end. It has created a dashboard.ts file, a service file for calling the Jobs API and populating the data in the front end. It has also created another file, jobs.ts, inside the API directory on the front end side. That one is responsible for calling the backend API for job related tasks. Then it has updated the all jobs page. It removed the static array that was defined here and it replaced it with logic to fetch data from the server and display it in the front end. It has also updated the dashboard, removed the static arrays and replaced them with logic to synchronize data from database and display it there. Now let's look web config. This is new file created by Claude Code. Here it has extracted the allowed origin URL into separate variable and this reference via curs.allowedorigins and saved it in our application.yml. Then we have the dashboard controller. This is for populating the dashboard. Next is job controller. It has modified the getJob method and added new request param called status. This is passed to the service layer for filtering jobs by status. It also added new method for counting by status. Now one thing I want to fix here. The get mapping for the status count is mapped to /count, but it should be /status/count. With just count, it feels like it's counting the total number of jobs, but it's actually counting the number of jobs by status. Let's tell Claude to fix that. In jobs controller, get mapping for get status count should be /status/count. Let's run that. And we need to update the front end call as well to match the new URL. Let me accept both changes. It took me about 16 seconds. Let's verify. The URL is updated. Everything looks good. Now let's check dashboard summary response. This is newly created DTO for showing summary on the dashboard. It holds status count, upcoming deadlines, and upcoming interviews. I am happy with that. Now also have upcoming interviews response, another DTO. Good. Let's check interview repository. It has select query, fine. The job repository, it has updated the query to search job by status. We also have dashboard service. This is for assembling the dashboard summary. The job service is updated. GetJob method now accepts the status parameter and handles the filtering properly. It has also added getStatusCount method. Everything looks good here and application.yml is updated as expected. I am happy with that. Let's commit those changes. Now, let's implement the job creation process from the front end. Implement job creation process from front end. Alright, it's done. Let's test it in the browser. Let's create a new job page. Click on this new application button. Here is our new job entry form. Let's give it a job title. Then company. Let's say Stripe. Let's change the status to wish list. The deadline, let's set it to the day after tomorrow. It's showing a level in 2 days. That's nice. If we push the date further, it updates dynamically. Source, LinkedIn. Salary range is optional, so I'll skip that. Let's add a description. I'll paste something from online. For the cover letter, there's a generate button, but AI integration is not hooked up yet, so I'll just type something manually. This is my cover letter. Nothing else to fill up, so let's save the application. It seems the application was saved. It redirected me to the job details page. At this time, it's just showing a static text. We will implement this in a moment. Let's back to all jobs page. And here is the job that we have just added. And if we click this job here, this job details page is open. Let's back to all jobs page. Here is a list of jobs. I want your attention to this. All the jobs have an applied date. And even when creating a new job entry, there is the default value is set for the application date. But I don't want that. As I mentioned, sometimes I just create an entry for a job without actually having applied. So the applied date should not be auto-populated. And also, I want to store the time when the job entry was saved. So now I want to do two things. First, add a separate column in the jobs table in the database to store the creation date. And second, by default, when creating a new entry, the applied on field should remain blank. It should only be updated by the user when they have actually applied. Back to Claude Code. The instruction I am giving is, for job entry, I need to record when it was created. The applied on field needs to be blank by default and it should only be populated by the user manually. The creation timestamp, on the other hand, needs to be saved automatically when the job is stored. Let's see what the Claude Code has done. Let me check the source control changes. In the front end, in job.ts on the front end, it has added created at in the job interface. In the new application form, it has also added the company search option and modified the applied date field. It will no longer show the predefined default date. In the job response, it has updated the created date field, and in the entity, it has added a date field created at, annotated with creation timestamp. It will automatically store the entry time to the database. It also updated job service. Here, it's modified get jobs method. Here it has included sort by property and the sort direction, and also the necessary modification for sorting. Then we have this migration script. It is for adding created at column in the jobs table. Now I want to make another modification, but before that, let me exit Claude Code from the Visual Studio Code. The terminal has been giving me trouble and becoming unreadable. So from now, I'll use my Mac terminal instead of just use VS Code for code review. And let me go to the project directory and resume the Claude with Claude dash continue. We are back at the same session where we left off. Here is the next change I want. On the all jobs page, in the job listing table, I want to display the job entry time, the creation timestamp, and this column should be sortable. When the user clicks the column header, the job should be sorted by creation date. So here is the instruction for Claude. On the all jobs page, please add a sortable entry date column to the jobs table. Clicking the column header should sort the job by their creation date. Claude Code has completed the task. Let's go through the summary. On the backend, it has updated the job controller, added sorted by parameter, default to deadline, and a sort direction parameter, and default is ascending. Made changes to the job service. On the front end, it has made the corresponding modifications as well. Let's check the browser and see if we are getting the updates. And here we have this entry date column. Everything is showing as invalid date. I need to restart the server to see this in action. The server is started. Let's check in the browser. We need to refresh, and here it shows the entry date. Then we have these filters. Let's check, and this filter is also working. And also let's check search. It's also working. That's fine. Now if we click on individual job, it brings me to this job details page, but this one is static. So next part, let's make this dynamic. Let's fetch the data from the database and display it here. But before that, I'm going to commit and move to the next section. Here is the job details page. At this moment, it's showing static content. Now let's instruct Claude to fetch this content from the server and populate this page. Back to the terminal. I'll clear the context and move to our next task. So what's next? I want to implement job details page. Now finish the job details page. It should populate the data from the server. So it has completed the task, and here is a summary of what it has done. Let's check this in the front end. Click on the job listing. It's not showing anything. Let's restart the project in IntelliJ IDEA and go back to the browser. So it's now showing the job description, cover letter. There are some interview notes. Let's commit these changes and move on to the next section. Now we'll implement the job edit functionality. When we click this edit button on the job details page, it needs to open the edit form. We'll update the details there and save the changes. So let's go back to the Claude Code. Here is my instruction. Implement the job update operation on the job details page. Clicking edit should open the job update form pre-filled with the current data. On successful submission, update the UI to reflect the changes immediately and show a success notification. I am also switching it to planning mode so we can review the plan before Claude make any changes. And press enter. Claude has come up with its plan. Let's check what it looks like. So here it provides the context. The job details page has a non-functional edit button with no on-click handler. It also listed the files it's going to modify, and it has provided a clear step-by-step implementation plan. I reviewed all the plan earlier. It's pretty solid plan. So I'm not going to go over all of these to save your time. Let's accept it and tell Claude to go ahead and implement. Claude has completed the task. Let's review what it changed. Here, the list of files is updated. It has created this edit job, a new React page. It also updated app.tsx. Here, it included the route to that edit page. Then it updated jobs.ts. It has added this update job function. This function sends put request to the server with the updated data. And finally, it updated the job details page to add the navigation handler that opens the edit form and shows a success message after the update. Let's check this in the browser. So here is our page. You can see the deadline is showing as 5 days past. I was recording this over the last 2 weeks and came back to continue. So the date has naturally shifted. Let's update it and set a future deadline. Let's click edit. The edit page has opened. Let's set the deadline to a future date, say 3 days from now, and let's set the status to wish list and save the changes. Here is the success message. The status has changed to wish list and the deadline is updated. And this pipeline column is also now showing wish list. This is great. Now let's also look at this change status button. Let's work on that next. Before that, let me commit the current changes first. Now it's time to implement the change status feature. Back to Claude Code, and here is my instruction. On the job application details page, clicking the change status button should show a drop down with the available status options. On selection, send a request to update only the status field and reflect the new status immediately with clear loading or error states. And press enter. Claude has completed the task. Let's review the changes. It only modified the job details file. Here, it has added a change status method and a drop-down that triggers this method whenever a status option is selected. Let's review this in the browser. You can see this arrow indicating there's a drop-down. Let's try to change it from wishlist to applied, and it's set to applied. If we go back to all jobs page, it's now showing applied. And if we go inside this job, it's updated properly. Great. And if we change it to offer, it has also updated the pipeline status. That's a great touch. I did not actually get any offer from that job, so let's put it back to the wish list. I'm happy with this result. Now let's commit the changes. Now let's focus on the company section. Right now it's showing these company cards, but if we click on them, nothing happens. We also have a delete option, but clicking the cards themselves does nothing. What I want is, when a company card is clicked, it should show all the jobs related to that company. Back to Claude. This is a separate task related to companies. So I'm going to clear the context first. Here is my instruction. Implement company card navigation to related jobs. When a company card is clicked on the company's page, show all the jobs for that company using the existing job list UI with a company filter, and press enter. Claude has completed the task. Let's check what has changed. It has updated the frontend, this jobs.ts file, and added company ID as a parameter to the getJobs method, along with the necessary logic to filter jobs by company. Then it updated the all jobs page to display the company filter banner and related method. In the company's page, it added an on-click event on each card to navigate with the company filter. And on the backend, it updated job controller to accept company ID as a request parameter and pass it to job service. Let's check the service. Here in job service, the getJobs method now accepts company ID, does the necessary checking, and calls either search job by status and company or search job by company on the repository depending on the parameters. And in job repository, it has added these two new methods, search job by status and company and search job by company with their respective queries. Since Claude modified the Spring Boot backend, we need to restart the server. Back to IntelliJ IDEA. Let's restart the server. Back to the browser. Here is our company's page. Let's try to get all jobs by Stripe. It's now showing all jobs for Stripe. Let's go back and check Vercel. And if we click on an individual job, it takes us to the job details page. So far so good. Let's commit these changes. Add company-based job filtering. Our next section is implementing the company update operation. Now, here in this section, we will implement the company update operation. Here is my instruction to Claude. Implement company editing from the company's page. Open an edit modal from company card. Pre-fill the existing company details. Save changes to the backend and update a company list after success with an appropriate success or error message. Claude has completed the task. Let's see what changed. First, it updated companies.ts, the API file, and updated the update company method. These methods sends put requests to the server with the updated data. It also updated the company's page to add an edit button on the card and a modal that populates the selected company's existing information. Let's check this in the browser. If we click on this three-dot menu on the company card, it shows the edit option and it opens the modal populated with company's information. Let's try to update it. Here, I'm running into a bug. After typing each character in the notes field, focus jumps back to the company name input. Let's fix that. Here is the prompt I am going to give Claude. It's a bit too long. Fix the company edit modal focus bug. When typing the notes field, focus jumps back to the company name input after every character. Investigate the modal component and form state updates. The likely cause is that the modal, form, or input fields are being remounted on each note's change, or an autofocus or focus effect is running after every render. Here is the requirements. Typing in notes must keep the cursor in the notes field. Company name should only receive focus when the modal first opens, not after every state update. Do not recreate the modal component from key or field keys based on the changing form values. Ensure any use effect that focuses company name depends only on modal open state, not form data. This is quite detailed instruction. You need to understand what is happening as a developer. Only then you can give Claude this level of detailed instruction. And once you know exactly what needs to be done, the AI tool does not matter. You can use Cursor, Claude Code, or any other agent to use the same thing. Now let's press enter to see how it fixes that. Claude has completed the task. Let's check what's going on in the browser. Let's try to add a company. The company name is 123 Corp and the note is a good company. Now save. The company is saved. Let's try to edit it. This time I will update the note to add I am happy. The cursor is not jumping back. That's fine. It's working as expected. The company is saved, but there is no feedback, no success message. I need to work on that. And if we try to delete this company, that also works, but there's still no notification message. That makes me a bit confusing. So this time I'll tell Claude to add proper feedback. Here is the prompt. Provide appropriate success or error message while doing CRUD operation on the company. Claude has updated the task. Let's test it in the browser. Let's add a company. Example corporation. Add a note and save. A beautiful toast notification appeared. I'm happy with how it came out. Let's commit these changes and move on to the next section. Now I want to clean up this page. You can see we have these placeholder states and an export button. I don't need either of those. So here is the instruction. From the company page, remove the states and export button. So the task is completed. Let's check in the browser. The states are removed and the button is gone. It's look much cleaner now. I'm happy with this. Let's commit and move to the next section. Now I'm going to implement the interview page. Back to Claude Code and here is my instruction. Implement interview CRUD API on the server using the existing Spring Boot pattern. Claude has implemented the interview CRUD API. Let's check the changes in IntelliJ IDEA. Opening the source control. Here is the div. Here it has updated our interview repository. It has added a new method, find by job ID, with a custom query. It also created 4 new files. Interview controller has a request mapping at API/interviews and all the necessary endpoints method. Interview request is the DTO. It includes the necessary fields based on the requirement from Claude.md and the database schema along with validation rules. Interview response, this is what we get back from the API after each operation. And interview service contains all the service method for the CRUD operations. Good. Now, let's move to the front end. Here is the instruction. Replace the static data in the interviews front end with real API data. Claude has completed the task and updated both the front end and back end. Let's review the changes. On the front end, it has added a new file in the API package. This interview.ts. It contains the method for all CRUD requests, creating, updating, and deleting interviews. It also modified interviews.tsx and it replaced the static content with dynamic data from the API. On the backend, it updated interview controller, adding a null check for job. It also updated interview repository with new method, find all with details. And in the interview service, it has added get all interviews method. Since there are changes on the server, we need to restart the Spring Boot application first. Let's do that from the IntelliJ IDEA. Now, let's check the front end. On the interview page, it's showing failed to fetch interviews. Let's refresh. Okay, there's one upcoming interview now. Everything looks good. Clicking this schedule interview takes me to the new page. I think this is not fully implemented yet. Let's tell Claude to implement that. Now, back to the Claude Code. Implement interview CRUD on the front end. Create, edit, and delete. Claude has made the updates. Let's review. In app.tsx, it added route for the interview edit path. It created a new edit interview page. It contains the interview form and all the necessary handler functions. It also updated interview.tsx to include links and buttons for editing. And it also updated new interview page with the form and create logic. Let's check this in the browser. Clicking the action button on an interview, this dropdown is now fully visible. Let me test edit as well. This interview was from yesterday, May 19. I will update it to tomorrow and add a special note and save. It's now showing in the upcoming interviews section with the updated data. Now, let's try to schedule a new interview. Select Frontend Engineer as the job. Set the round name to phone screen. Pick a date. Set it 2 days from now. Add a note. I am really excited. And save. The interview is now saved and showing it in the list with the round name, notes, and job name. Let's also check if this reflects on the job itself. Opening all jobs. Here is the Frontend Engineer posting. The phone screening interview is listed there. One thing I want to change. Clicking an interview item in the list should open its details page. Let me tell it to Claude. Clicking an interview item in the list should open the details page for that interview. Claude has made the update. Claude has created a dedicated interview details page. Let's check it in the browser. Clicking on the phone screen round. Here we are getting the full details view of that interview. The edit icon also works fine from here. Let me test delete as well. Clicking delete. It's showing a warning. Let's confirm. The interview is deleted. Things are looking good. Let's commit those changes and move to the next section. At this point, our minimum viable product is taking shape, but there are few things left to implement. For example, on this new job application form, there's this paste a job URL to autofill feature that I want to build. Back to Claude Code. Let's clear the context and switch to plan mode. On the new interview form, implement the paste a job URL to autofill feature. Claude is asking a clarifying question. What should the autofill button do when a URL is pasted? It's giving few options. Here I will go with this AI powered extraction because every job posting site has its own structure and format. So scrapping is unreliable. Let me select that option. Let's review the plan Claude has come up with. The context. The new interview form lets user link an interview to an existing job via a search drop-down. A request is to add a paste job URL to autofill shortcut. The user pastes the job posting URL they saved on the job record and the form auto selects the matching job, eliminating the need to manually search. Let's check the implementation plan. In the backend, it proposed a change in the job repository class. It will add new method find by job URL. Another change will be in job service. A new method with return type job response to get job by URL will be added. In job controller, it will add a new endpoint before the ID mapping, a by URL mapping with method get job by URL that calls get job by URL. It will also do necessary changes to the front-end. It has added other information related to the plan. I already did this and this is a solid plan. Let's accept it and let Claude to execute the plan. Here, Claude is struggling to resolve the correct Spring AI version. Sometimes this model hallucinates or sometimes they are just unable to do that because of their limitations. So let me handle some of the part manually. That's the job of human. Back to the IntelliJ idea, opening pom.xml. Let me look what Claude has added. It has added this dependency. This is not going to work as it is. Now, let me add the correct dependency. I will add Spring AI Starter OpenAI from org.springframework.ai. Now, let me create a .env file at the project root. I will add my OpenAI API key here. Let me grab it from my keys. I'm not going to show the full key on screen for obvious reason. I don't want to leak my API key. Now, let me open application.yml. Claude has made some configuration mistake here. As a developer, it's our responsibility to spot and fix those. We don't need to duplicate this Spring block. It's already defined above. Let me move this full block up and remove the duplicate. Let me also update the key placeholder to reference OpenAI API key from the environment. I will set the model to GPT-4o mini with temperature 0.1. Back to Claude. I have included the Spring AI dependency in pom.xml and configured the API key. Now, your task is to implement the rest. Claude has completed the implementation. IntelliJ is showing an error, could not resolve placeholder OpenAI key. The issue is that my Spring Boot application is not reading the environment file. I need to tell IntelliJ to load it. So click this drop down, open edit configurations, then click this modify options and select environment variables. Now click on this folder icon to browse the file. Here is the environment file inside my server directory. Open it and click OK. Now let's start the application again. Back to the front end. Let me copy the job URL from the listing page. Go to the new application page, paste the URL and click autofill. The front end is calling the backend API and look at this. The job title and other fields are filled in automatically. Here I need to make one small fix. Let me copy the value and paste it into the correct field. Here we go. And the job description is also populated. Now let's implement the generate draft button for the cover letter. Back to Claude Code. Here is the instruction. Implement
generate draft for cover letter in the new job creation page.
Claude has added necessary updates. I need to restart the server. Let me go back to IntelliJ IDEA and restart the application. Let's test in the browser. Let me try autofilling with another job listing. And let's try this post, software engineer smart contract. Copy that URL and paste it here, autofill, and it's populated. Job title, description, everything. Now let me click this generate draft. The front end is calling the backend, generating the draft from the job title and application details. And there it is. A cover letter draft has been generated. I'll be honest, I personally don't rely on auto-generated cover letters. I go through the full job specification and write the cover letter myself. If you want to get the attention of hiring manager, you need to personalize your application. Put your own creativity and your own story. That's matter most. And that is our minimal viable product. I hope you enjoyed building these with me. There are a few things still left to implement. Here in this navigation bar, we have this search field. I don't want that, so I'm going to remove that. Also, here is this settings and this is empty. And the export button on the all jobs page still needs to be built. I'll implement those in future and push everything to GitHub so you can clone it, build on it, and use it for your own purpose. With that, I'm going to wrap up here. This video has already gotten a quite long. If you found it helpful, please leave a comment. It really helps. And if I get enough response, I might consider making my next video on building a project using OpenAI's Codex. So keep an eye on the channel. See you on the next one. Till then, bye bye.